All right guys, today we're gonna mod the EBOX 2.0. So first things first, the EBOX 2.0 just stock is a lot of fun. So we actually had some extra parts for another build, and I thought it'd be a cool idea if we tried to mount it to the EBOX 2.0. Now, as you can see, I took off the stock controller. Pretty basic. It's a DC brushless controller, 60 volts, 45 amps. I think this is the same controller that was on the Dragster. So you have your analog throttle and speed controls. Also your battery display. There's also brake sensors that attach to the controller, and obviously the throttle. And that's pretty much it. What we want to do is upgrade it to a far driver, and this is a 72300 far driver. We're going to use a stock battery. We're going to keep it 60 volts for now. This controller also comes with, different harness. We have the Sur-on throttle, comes with a key ignition. We also have an updated motor. This is 72 volts, and it says a rating of 2300 watts. On the stock motor, it says 60 volts and a rating of 2000 watts. So if we do decide to update the battery to 72 volts, then this motor will be able to handle it. Now, in terms of the connectors, this is a 5-pin connector coming from the stock motor, and then also the same 5-pin connector coming from the updated motor. On the far driver, looks like the hall sensor is 6 pins, so we'll just have to find a different connector to wire it up. Phase wire should connect right to the controller. And then for the battery, we'll probably have to get some sort of XT90 that'll hook up into the stock battery. That's pretty much it. I don't think we're going to do any crazy lighting or anything like that. So it should be straightforward. We're also going to remove the graphics. We're going to keep it kind of like a basic black. And I also have this riser handlebar, and this is from the stock Ego mini bike. So this should fit right here and bring the bars up a little bit higher. I feel like I have some experience tuning the far driver, so if we need any help with that, we'll probably hit up Ryan Goodyear at E-Conic Cycles. He'll help us out with that. And, I also have this Magura MT7 with some fresh pads. Okay, so now that we have everything ready to go, let's cut to a montage right about now. Okay, so we have the far driver tuned up. I didn't realize that the 72300 has an internal Bluetooth module, so I actually didn't need to install one on here. I ran AutoLearn on the far driver app. Also got some tuning parameters from Ryan Goodyear, and then everything else in terms of tuning the far driver, that's on YouTube. You could find that information. Here's what I got so far. So everything turns on. You see the voltage over here, ignition switch. We have the 3-speed switch over here, 1, 2, 3. So this is eco mode. Then we have normal mode. And then this is sport mode. Yeah, dropping dropping the bolts off. Okay. Yeah, plenty of power. Yeah, I think we could even refine the tune a little bit more. There's a little bit of dead space on the throttle. So yeah, everything is pretty straightforward. The challenge now is how to mount the new controller. So the stock controller is pretty narrow and kind of goes underneath here with these bolts. And the far driver controller, it's a little too thick to fit in the narrow frame like so. Now I could probably just mount it like this and keep it pretty low. Another option is mounting it like sideways like that, which I don't know, seems a little strange. I also added an XT90 connector to the Far Driver 72300. All of this stuff you could get on E-Conic Cycles. Maybe we'll hit up Ryan Goodyear to get some advice on how to tune it, and then we'll figure out some kind of elegant way to mount the controller.
One debt to society later.
All right, guys, we finally finished the mods for the EBOX 2.0. We added a 72 volt motor over here. So this has an output of 2300 watts and probably rated to go maybe 3200 watts. So if we want to add 72 volts later, we could do that. Obviously remove the stickers on the plastics, so it's a little bit cleaner in my opinion. We did order the lowering brackets for the pegs, so that's probably going to ship at some point maybe this week. We also added these riser bars. Now these are riser bars from the Ego mini bike, and I don't know exactly how high this rise is, but it's pretty tall. I added this light bar over here, nice and bright. Fits right on the bars. I have this on several of my bikes. I'll put a link in the description. Also added Pro Taper grips right here. I put the 3-speed switch on the left side. We have the voltage display, key ignition, Sur-on throttle, and then when we take the seat off, you'll see how I mounted the Far Driver 72300. So because the Far Driver is a little bit wider than the stock controller, it doesn't actually bolt right onto the frame like the stock controller. At an angle, I was able to kind of secure it with some heavy duty zip ties, as you could see, and then 4 regular size zip ties, because there are holes on the heatsink. This also gives us enough room for the harness, so all these wires are tucked in. I did have to run the motor wire up here, so it is sort of touching the spring, but not a big deal. Thought I'd have to design some sort of custom mount, and I guess you could do that, but because it's hidden beneath these plastics, it's really not a big deal. This is pretty secure, so I think it would have been overkill if I tried to design some 3D mounted bracket. And because the mudguard has kind of like this little plate over here, it actually acts as kind of like a base plate. So it's not like we're gonna see some major gains, because the battery is still the stock battery. It's still outputting only 45 amps, but I think we're gonna have more flexibility in terms of the tuning, in terms of the calibration. We did calibrate the motor without the chain on. That gave us the best readings for Ryan Goodyear at E-Conic Cycles to tune it up for us with a little custom tune. He's great. If you ever need any bike tuned up, he'll get back to you with a custom tune like super quick. Anything having to do with the Far Driver, he's like a great resource. And again, if you guys want to get the Far Driver 72300 kit along with the Sur-on throttle, you could get that on the E-Conic Cycles website. I do have a promo code to save you some money, and I'll put that link in the description. Let's take it out for its first ride. We'll just do a quick speed test, and then hopefully we'll get Sully to do another stunt test. So enough talk, let's get to it. Okay, so we're starting out with power level 1 on the upgraded EBOX 2.0. We have the 72300 Far Driver controller installed, going up an incline over here. So I think we max out, I think at about 15 miles per hour on flat road on power level 1. Again, this could be adjusted in the Far Driver app. The bike sounds quieter, if that makes sense. Maybe that's because our chain was too tight on the stock configuration. It seems like it's a little bit quieter. Now, we did get a tune-up from Ryan Goodyear at E-Conic Cycles, and you can get this 72300 kit from E-Conic Cycles. Now let's bump it up to power level 2. Give it a little bit more juice. Got a little bit more power, a little more top speed. Able to tackle the incline pretty well. Yeah, I like it. I like it. Now the difference is nominal, right? Compared to the stock controller. Stock controller is more than capable, but you definitely have a little bit more control in the tune in terms of the programming. Now, if you're not into programming or tuning with the Far Driver, then I probably wouldn't advise to change it, because you'll probably just like the analog controls with the stock controller. But I do like that this thing is really calibrated, to the motor, to the battery. Let's bump it up to power level 3 now. Now we're getting max power here. The throttle is very smooth. It's not trying to throw me off the bike. Yeah, we're hitting about 30 miles per hour, 35, 36, 37. So yeah, I might be drawing a little bit more power on this bike than the stock controller. I think we only hit like 30 miles per hour on the stock configuration. Now I feel like I am gaining just a little bit more miles per hour here with this new tune. Again, 37, 39, 40 miles per hour, 41 miles per hour. More than enough. Yeah, this is pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, for sure it's getting me more top speed with the upgrade. And I should gain some more speed as we level out over here. (32), 33, 34. I'd say about 34 miles per hour, 35. A gain of 5 miles per hour overall.
So Rick had just got done showing me around the EBOX 2.0 and all the upgrades that he's done. Here we got the riser bars. Definitely a big rise compared to the factory. I wonder, what is it, like a 4-inch rise? It's a big rise, I'll tell you that much. Definitely keeps the bars way out of the way of your knees. And I have pretty long legs, and I have on my tippy toes here in order to get it to hit. If I'm flat-footed, completely misses my leg, which is good. It's exactly what you want. So we upgraded to the 4-piston Magura MT7s with the sintered brake pads in them. Those are my go-to. They don't bite the hardest, but they last the longest. On my Sur-Ron now, I've been running moto brakes for so long, coming back to a mountain bike brake, it is a little bit different, but we'll get used to it. So here we got the zip tie mechanic job. I can't say that I haven't done that before on my razors, and if it works, it works. So it's not stupid if it works, right? Let's quit talking about it and let's get a ride on this thing. So right away, yeah, the brakes definitely feel a lot better. They definitely lock up a lot easier and feel a bit smoother. So in comparison to the factory brakes, there's definitely a lot more modulation, and you can hit the brake a little bit and it gives you a little bit, to where if you pull it a lot, it gives you a lot, to where the factory brake, if you pull it just a little bit, it darn near does nothing. And then if you pull it hard, it's still like you can almost power through it. So yeah, definitely not ideal for wheelies. You don't want to power through your brakes and end up on your back. So these were probably the most easy last time. Whoa, a lot more power down low for sure, and it's way more controllable. I don't feel like I'm about to zip off the back of this thing anymore. Yeah, definitely a lot better in the power delivery, a lot smoother. Yeah, so we did go into the far driver settings and change them a little bit before I started. It's still a little touchy down low, but it's a lot more predictable than it was before. Having any type of tuning capability on any bike is just crucial. Even if it's the analog dials, I mean, you need it. You need it. But yeah, from the bars being way out of my knees way, definitely super nice. One thing I do wish it had was a bit wider of a rear tire, but it's nothing I can't get used to. It's just I'm not used to it yet. And the bike being so small is another factor of it being very hard to wheelie. Woo. Yeah, maybe we stick with 1 foot down for now. Oh, it's definitely much smoother, and you're able to like modulate your throttle so much better than before. There was no modulation before. You were just chopping at it, praying that it was gonna modulate the way that you wanted it to. As far as the bars go, I mean, yeah, they are tall enough, but once we have the drop pegs, which we have on order, that will also make a huge difference, I believe. And then also the Supermoto tires, hopefully those keep us a little bit more on balance and keep us from pivoting left to right so much. But yeah, definitely gonna need some type of seat cover or like something just to keep you from sliding off the seat, because it is a slip and slide over here. Start on level 2, work your way up.
Start with 2 feet on the ground?
2 feet down. Have that, no problem. Now try 1 foot. So why you're pulling that way is this knee is too close to the bike. Bring it out, not like a lot, but you have to move it while you're wheeling. So you have to adjust as you wheelie. So if you start a little bit slower, you'll be able to pop it up to balance point a little bit quicker instead of having to chase out to balance point. Yep, yep. And then another thing, as the bike comes up, try not to pull your body weight forward. There you go, that was a good one. Yeah, so just absolutely mobbing on this thing. It absolutely rips through the corners. I mean, you get all the grip you could ever ask for. I'm going into this like loose grass. There's some sand in here. Takes the bumps like a champ. Corners so good. So much control. You know, up onto the banks, down off the bank, in it again. It's just super controlled, super fun. Definitely plenty of speed for a kid or even like a young teen learning to ride bikes. I mean, you could still fall very, very easily going this fast. It is definitely a lot of fun. I mean, and it takes every single little bit of abuse that you give it. Be carving some trails, hitting all the bumps, coming all the way down, leaning down to the peg, touching the grass. Oh, zoom in. Woo! Oh, I got a little loose there at the end. Oh man, what a blast. Taking this thing off-road, you know, it's definitely a very capable bike. I mean, it handles the corners great, handled all the terrain great, the suspension handled everything great. So I basically went into the settings and I changed all 3 of the range speeds and power levels down like 20% from what they were. And it was still a little touchy, so I ended up just changing the speed. There was like a speed setting and then there was a power setting. I changed the speed setting down like to half of what it was, and it seems to have made it a bit smoother on the throttle. Like before, when you gave it like this much throttle, it was like trying to throw you off the bike, but now it's a real light throttle when you give it a light throttle, and it starts to give you more as you go through. So you're just trying to get that linear power curve. You can actually knee knock it much better than before. Much more controlled, much smoother. It's not jerking me around, making the suspension bounce, which is really what throws you off balance. When the suspension starts compressing and stuff while you're doing a wheelie, it'll really throw you off balance. But now, as you can see, we can wheelie it no problem. One-handers, the whole 9, baby. Definitely transforms the bike when you have a really good tune on it. Let's see if we can get both feet up. A little. Just like with the analog dials, there's a lot of trial and error when it comes to tuning. Just kind of adjusting settings and seeing how it feels to figure out what meets your preferences.